Welcome to the Mountain Entrepreneur Podcast. Today I'm joined by Bryan Caldwell, my co-host, to interview him on how he scaled his insurance agency more than 4 times in a few short years. This is the best podcast to listen to for growing your business here in the Mountain Foothills community by listening to interviews of people who successfully scaled in the community. Today it is a solo episode of just us, and I'm going to be interviewing Bryan, who's one of the leading insurance agents in town, on how he got into the business, how he's massively scaled and essentially quadrupled his business in the past few years, and some tips and tricks for local business owners looking to get into the community. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Cade.
Or I should say welcome to your own show.
My own show. It's a little different getting interviewed now. I kind of like being the interviewer. But let's go ahead and jump in. What do you got to ask?
So we got to know the Bryan lore. So you haven't been in insurance for your entire life. Tell us a little bit about your background in corporate America and how you came to own an insurance agency in Evergreen.
Yeah, so, let's go way back. I started off actually in a hotel restaurant culinary program. I wanted to be a chef. I was pretty good on it, can still cook.
I can do mac and cheese.
Yeah, I can do a little more than that. But I can still cook. I got into basically the restaurant business after that. I did spend a little time in Europe and a sous chef and tried to go that route, but ended up working right out of college for a company called Adams Mark. They're out of business now, in their food and beverage department out here in Denver, actually. I moved out here from New York, and it was my first taste at like big kind of management of people. I was in there. I was an assistant manager on their food and beverage side and their banquet side. I don't know, we had somewhere in the 200 plus range of employees down there just in that department. We put on some huge functions. And so, it was a quick learning experience and a great one, really, laid the foundation to a couple of things that I really liked being a leader. I liked managing people. And I liked the success and I would say achieving the customer's goals and dreams, right? And so that foundation was laid pretty early after college. I got scooped up by another hotel to lead their banquet department really young. I was 22, 23 at the time, and I was a director of their banquet department. And then after that, for personal reasons, moved to Mobile, Alabama, and got back in the restaurant business, started cooking again, was peeling some shrimp, really not liking it, and being a customer-driven guy and, someone that just likes to be out there with the people, I was making table visits, which is common in the industry if you're doing it right. At one particular table were 2 guys sitting like this having lunch, and I just went over and did my thing, and at the end of the conversation, the guy goes, "Hey, do you want to interview for a sales position?" And I said, "Well, I've never sold anything. I've always been in management and cooking." And he said, "Why don't you come up to Holiday Inn and interview?" And I'll never forget the guy's name. His name was Frank. And he said, "Why don't you come up to Holiday Inn and interview? We're a food distributor. Would you like to get into food sales?" And I said, "Well, I like food, so let's try it." So I went up, interviewed, got the job, realized I was pretty good at selling. And
seems something that you're natural at, both leadership and selling and building connections. Seems kind of like I would assume, always been that way.
Yeah, I think I was. Even back in high school, I was a shoe salesman. Call me Al Bundy if you want. But I was a shoe salesman at an Army-Navy store, and I actually had I made the newspaper. I had the largest single sale of an associate on shoes. It was $800 worth of work boots, shoes, sneakers, etc. for one person. It was pretty cool. And so, I've always had this little knack, little gift for selling. So that was my kind of lead into sales. I quickly excelled at that. And then got into management. So I got another company recruited me in, and that's when I started my corporate trek. Was a district manager, went from that to a larger company as a district manager, got into director of marketing, merchandising for them, big, $500 million organization in Montgomery, got into that, a full leadership role, sitting at the executive table, dealing with all the corporate stuff. I found out I wasn't too good at corporate, a little too entrepreneurial maybe, with my thought process. And so I've been fired a bunch. Usually my mouth got me fired, and I'm not afraid to speak up and do 2 things. Do the right thing and say what I believe, but also protect my people. I was a big advocate for our salespeople and a big advocate for doing the right thing for our clients, and didn't jive with our president at the time. So, I've been let go a few times, and then I joined the financial technology business. It was really my first step into entrepreneurship in that business, and with that, it's payroll, credit cards. I led a team, but it was a fully commissioned leadership role. So the production of the team paid me. And so I quickly grew that from a zero state to, we were doing basically in our numbers like 100,000 or so in revenue a month in our new business, and that's what really paid. So grew from 0 people to 10 people, and just had a knack to grow it. So I got into their vice president track, but never got the promotion. And then I just got, hit 40 years old. I got sick of kind of the corporate rat race to get to the top, and quit. And I was like, I'm just gonna go. At that time we were pretty comfortable. I was like, I'm just gonna go back to where I love, Colorado. This was 2018, and I'm gonna buy a business. It was my thing. I'm gonna be my own boss. I'm tired of these corporate guys. And so from Grand Lake up to Summit County, Breckenridge, we looked for a business to buy. It was going to be in the restaurant hospitality business, which was my comfort zone. And we looked for that business, and then, made some offers. Nothing happened. So I was kind of a ski bum at the time. I had a house, bought a house up there and didn't have a job. So I said, well, maybe I need to work. And I went to put a resume in just to sell life insurance. That was my resume. I was like, just do this. It's remote. I can work from home. I can ski. It'll be fine. I've worked hard enough for 40 years. I'll be okay until I find the right place to buy. And I just digressing a minute. I'm very thankful. I didn't buy anything, because that was 2018. And we all know what happened 2019, 2020 with COVID in the hospitality business. Opening something would have been almost nearly impossible. So I'm very thankful that didn't work out. And with a little bit of luck, that resume never got to life insurance sales, because I'm horrible at that too, even though I own an insurance agency. That's why you hire people better than you. But I did end up getting a call randomly. I was back getting ready to move stuff from Alabama to here, and I got a call from American Family Insurance, their sales division leader out here, and he said, hey, man, you got a great resume. It looks like you've done a lot of leadership. What are you looking for? And I said, well, I'm looking to own a business. I want to be a business owner. He said, well, I happen to have an opportunity for you. And that's where insurance came from. And so there was a retiring agent up here in Evergreen, and they sent me the numbers on the agency, and I looked at it. I bought it to a buddy of mine in Alabama who ran a State Farm agency, and I put the paperwork in front of him, and I said, hey, man, is this a good deal? If I do this, am I going to be okay? And he looked at it. He goes, I'd leave my agency for that. And I said, okay. So
that's probably a good sign.
Yeah, it was a great sign. So never being in the insurance business, never, not licensed, knew nothing about it, didn't know how to run a business really on my own, but had the confidence to do it. I stepped out. I said, let's do this. They had quite a rigorous process for owners to get the agency, and so I went through that. They offered it to me, and I did all my licensing in 4 weeks, and then they appointed me December 3rd of 2018.
And how many people were in your class? How many people were in your class of agents? Because did you have to go through some sort of boot camp or training platform with other agents as well that were kind of new to the insurance world?
Yeah, so there was a company training program for new agents to onboard them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there was probably a dozen or so new agents in that class.
How many are still active and doing well as agents?
Yeah, it was funny. I was just talking to a friend of mine who was in that class, and we're down to about 6 of us left in the class.
Wow. 50% attrition rate.
And that's just in 6 years, right? So that's hardly anything. And a few left right away. So it's not an easy job. It was very humbling in the beginning. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to walk out because I didn't know the systems. I didn't know the clients. I didn't know insurance. I didn't know the product. I was literally sitting at a desk going, oh my God. I had paperwork up to here, files on the computer, 8,000 emails transferred in from the other guy. And I was like, how am I ever going to survive this? I had one part-time guy that I inherited that he was never empowered to do anything. So all he could do was answer the phone. It was misery in the first 3 months to 6 months of that job while going through training. Talk about on the job training.
Trial by fire.
Big fire. But we made it. And, you got to have that resilience as a business owner, right? I was all in. I didn't go anywhere else. So I had to make it work. I had young kids at the time, and, we had to give it a go. That was the sole source of income. So, it was off to the races, and it wasn't all, roses, sunshine, and rainbows. It was a lot of fire and dark clouds and storms. So, but we made it.
And so you have had an impressive run of essentially 4X in your book of business. You brought it in, you stabilized that book, retained a lot of those folks, and then you have been the most aggressive marketer and grower of your business. I've seen a lot of insurance agents that get in, then kind of just like coast that book of business, but you have quadrupled the book of business. You've been through employees. You've tried a number of different tactics. If you had to boil down scaling your company by 4 times in just a few short years, what's that one key personality trait that you have that has allowed you to scale?
I think it's always striving for excellence, and making sure that I am always the best version of myself for not only the organization, but for my clients and my community. I think those two things together, really set us apart from the other guy, right? It can be, and you can get a little sidetracked. You can be very selfish being a business owner, write-offs, events, things like that. But you really got to ground yourself. So I think that being the best version of me and excellence would be my answer to that, because you're always striving for that. And I don't know how to give up. I don't know how to quit. So I think that's just another attribute that's within those 2 major headlines. But yeah, you can't quit, and you got to keep going. So, and you got to have a vision. I think a lot of people go into business without a vision. My vision was to create the #1 mountain agency up here in the Evergreen market, Foothills market. It was to grow multiple agencies, which we just opened our 2nd location in Grand Junction. So we're happy about that. We've got 2 what they call virtual agencies that will further develop down the road that are in newer markets. One's in Sterling Ranch, and then we're looking maybe up in Brighton. So we're trying to spread out across the state and spread our risk, and then get licensed in 10 states. So, I mean, you just gotta go all in and have that vision of where do I want to be in 5-10 years. And I've always said I want to be, in 10 years, a $10 million book. And we're going to hit that before 10 years. We might hit it this year. So, it was always my goal. And then the goal from there is in 20 years, 20 million. And so I think when you set those big goals, you go after them.
And I love the growth that you've been doing. You're not cutting corners. You're not duping old grandmas into buying insurance that they don't need. Like, you have a brand here. People know you, and they know that you do excellent work, that you have excellent staff, and that you have a vision for growing your business. And to shift a little bit more into the practical day-to-day, you're moving, and day one, you sit down in your office, you're overwhelmed by things, but you were already thinking of growth. What was your plan when you first moved to Evergreen to start growing that book of business?
Yeah, so I think step 1 was to get my arms around the existing book, to make sure the clients understood that we were there from there. They saw our vision of being a partner in the community, being a partner with them, protecting their biggest assets, right? Their home, their auto, their life. So I wanted to make sure I got my arms around that book that we were very fortunate to get. And so that was step 1. And I knew if I did a good job with those customers, referrals would come. And that's the best way to grow your business, by referrals. I don't care how much you spend on marketing. I don't care how much you dump into events. If you're not getting referrals, you're not going to grow your business. So my big thing was, hey, I want every one of these customers to send me a customer. And that happened. It didn't happen right away, but that was it. And then people. You got to have people, good people, because you can't do it all. So that was the second part of the plan, was how are we going to bring good people into the organization when the organization wasn't making that much money in the beginning? So I got to pay myself, pay someone good to work for me, or use the person I had. And so, then it's investing in the people. And so that, that gentleman's been with me 6 years. He's come a long way from basically just being a phone answerer and an order taker, so to speak, to actually handling most of our brokerage book of business and most of my claims information, and then still handling, a high volume of phone calls and service issues, and actually using the computer, which he wasn't even using. So, it's just developing people like that. And we went through so many people to find the right fits. But now we got an amazing team, and we're always looking to add to that team. And we are going to add. We're adding 2 sales producers this year. And so, we're going to have quite a large team. And now my goals have changed as an owner with that. So now I look at the team, and my focus is, it's still the insured and taking care of business. But it's like, how can I provide for my team and give them a great place to work, a 20-year career, good income, just job security, right? And in a world where people change jobs, it seems like every year or two now. I want people to really enjoy what they're doing. So that's kind of my new focus, is that area.
You've done a lot of interviews, and I know you've gone through a number of people, but you've kind of built a stable, solid team that does awesome work. What did you see in your current team members that you went, I need to have them on? And then how have you kind of developed and coached them as a business owner to grow as people and help your business as well in the process?
Yeah, so I think the key is you want to find people like yourself. And I think you want that not only in employees, but like in your circle, right? In your circle of friends. I always tell my kids that. I'm like, you want to be around friends that you want to emulate, and that you want to emulate you and your good traits and your good habits and your drive and ambition and the way you think about life and everything else. And so if you don't have a good circle, then it doesn't have to be a big circle, but you got to have like-minded people essentially. So I wanted the same thing out of my staff. And I think as a business owner, it takes a couple of things. It takes learning who you are. And that was a learning process through 5 or 6 years. And then it takes, I'm still learning who I am. And then it takes going, I hate to say it, but going through people, right? Because you think in an interview, you've got the right person sitting across from you. And then it turns out 6 months later, they were putting on a facade. So most of my employees now are either personal contacts I've worked with, or personal referrals from very good sources. None of it came from like Indeed or, any of those job search things. And they all have some sort of entrepreneurial skills. So for example, one of them owned a small cafe in town here. One of them was a lender in town, and I still let her lend through the agency. And then one was a realtor, right? And then I still got John. And then the 2 gentlemen I have coming on, one was a bigwig for like a grocery store chain, to be named later because we're not sponsored. And then he also is a current firefighter, right? And so very community driven. And then one was a marketing guy for AT&T. So I look for people that had the similar background, similar experiences as me, the drive, the ambition, ran businesses, and I bring them in. And that's who I want on my team. So if you don't hit that mark anymore, you're not gonna come join the Caldwell agency.
Do you think you can teach employees that drive or that ambition? Because I've seen a lot of people get into business or get jobs, and it seems like you're just born with, or you developed early in life, that drive, that ambition, that hustle. Do you think you can teach employees ambition and drive?
You can't teach it, but you can lead by example. So when they see you walking the walk and talking the talk and making things happen, they want to make things happen. That has to be within them, and that's what you have to kind of weed out as an owner in the interview process, is do they really have this, or are they putting on, a story for me, or what's the deal? And that's why, like I said, everybody I know, I've hired from knowing how they worked and what they've done in their careers. And yeah, it costs you a little more as an owner, but you got to have the right people in the organization. And I'll just go back to good to great. I think I've said it in another podcast. I don't know what order these are coming out in, but Collins wrote a great book, and he just talks like the one thing in that book that has always stuck out to me is have the right people in your organization in the right seats on the bus. And we've changed that a lot, right? We've had people doing things that weren't like their skill level, right? Or weren't their passion. And so once you find what they're really good at and their passion in your business, then I think the drive comes naturally for them because they're actually doing what they enjoy doing.
And shifting gears a little bit, to achieve the scaling and the growth that you have, one thing that I've noticed is that you're not afraid to spend money on sponsorships. You're not afraid to spend money on employees and building a good business. Tell me a little bit about your philosophy of marketing that's allowed you to scale by 4x your book of business.
So it's I had a great leader. His name was Rick Combs. He was a president at one of the food companies I worked at. He did two things great. He always looked after his people. On a personal level, I've had some heart issues. I had my first surgery, and he was president, and I didn't think he'd ever come visit me. And I wasn't too high up the ladder at that point. I just had joined the organization as a district manager. He was bedside as a leader, and that touched me, and I was like, I want to be like that, and I'll never forget that moment. But he also had this philosophy of give to get, which I thought was a great philosophy, right? If you want to grow an organization, you have to give in many ways. One of our gives and one of our main things that gets us recognition is sponsorships. Sponsorships of events, sponsorships of organizations, donations to charity, and all of that drives business, right? And so that give attitude, but also if you're going to grow, you got to give. So you got to spend the money to get the money. So many businesses are afraid to spend on marketing, and maybe this is a little bit of my marketing side from the corporate world, but they're so afraid to just invest those dollars in the marketing. But if you look at the big organizations that are, sponsoring the Super Bowl, and I mean, I'm probably never going to ever get that big, but you look at these major organizations and what they do and their spend, right? You just scale that down to your size organization. Go, okay, well, I got to put 25% in the marketing budget, and I'm going to spend that regardless. And where you spend, it's a whole different story. But you got to put that investment out there to bring in the potential. So it's like building your funnel, right? And at the top of the funnel, they got to know who you are, right? That's the top of the funnel. And then it trickles down into clients, right? You don't get them all, but you know everybody. So funny story just about being known. I hike 14ers as a hobby, and I was doing the DeCalibran Loop here in Colorado, which is 4 peaks. And I get to the third peak, Lincoln, and probably going backwards on it, but I got to Lincoln, and I'm at the top of the mountain, and this dude comes up to me, and he's like, I know you. And I'm looking at him like, I have no idea who you are. And he goes, you're the insurance guy in Evergreen. And, that's when you know your marketing's paying. And that happens to me all the time now. But that's when you know your marketing's paying off. So I'm on the top of a 14,000-foot market, and this guy recognizes me as the insurance guy. And I got a hat on and everything else. So it was pretty cool. And I'm like, oh, well, things are working. So, you got to spend it to grow it. And I've always been, been that way. And just another quick story, when COVID hit was our second year in business and second full year. And most companies kind of pinched it, right? I opened up the floodgates. I spent more on marketing and letters and flyers and mailers, and I think I hired you during that period to do some social stuff. I spent more on marketing over that period, and that was our biggest growth year, was 2020. Got more in return for it. While everybody else was cowering, putting their money under a pillowcase, I was like, we're going to grow. Yeah. So, that's what I do.
Do you have a certain percentage of revenue or profit that you kind of just earmark back into marketing?
Yeah, it's about 25%. Over whatever that new revenue number is or projected budget number every year. So
it's a lot higher than a lot of other companies out there, but you've also massively scaled in just a few short years. Is that 25% of revenue going to marketing something you'd recommend for other business owners if they want to see
You gotta be willing to spend it. Can I guarantee it? No, because if you spend it in the wrong place, probably you're not going to grow. So you got to be strategic about where you put it. But yeah, I think that COVID year we spent close to 35% of the revenue we had budgeted. Worth every penny. It accelerated our growth tremendously. So I would recommend, what my recommendation would be, spend what you're comfortable with, but spend it. Whether it's 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, spend it, because how else are people going to know you're out there if you don't spend the money?
And you are now the chairman of the board of the Evergreen Chamber. You're involved. You spend a lot of money on sponsorships there. Tell me a little bit about how being a member of your local Chamber of Commerce has helped you scale your insurance agency.
Yeah, so it took me about 6 months to figure out what I wanted to, once I learned the business and everything else, what I wanted to do. And so my first stop up here, this is a mountain town, it's unincorporated. I was like, well, where's the center of the town? Like, who do I talk to about things? And I kept getting pointed to the chamber. So made an appointment with them. Lady's name was Valley, came in. She said, hey, you should buy a membership, join the chamber, went over all the benefits. I said, all right, sounds good. Give me the lowest level, right? I was like, give me the minimal and let me kind of feel it out. And so signed up, and then just started going to the local meetings. They have like a great breakfast every morning that's more knowledge kind of based stuff, things going on in the community. The commissioner comes in and speaks, kind of gives you a government update. Sometimes you get the fire department in, all that kind of stuff, road work, educational stuff. Started going to those things, and was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And, started meeting people, shaking hands, and then sponsored my first event that year, forum in the fall. It was the business awards, actually, that followed, and I was like, I'll sponsor it, Did a low-level sponsorship because I was tight on money, and I was like, all right, let's see where this goes. Really had a great return on that, and then was like, all right, I got to do more. So right away the next year in the budget, I was like, all right, we're going up a level, because they have different tiers of levels. And so every year I've been there, I've gone up a level. Now I'm not am I only the chairman of the board now, I'm also at the chairman's level, which I pay for the exposure, right? And so every year I've gone up, and every year the benefits get better. Without the chamber, my business really wouldn't be where it is, because in a mountain community, it's different probably than in a big city. But I think the same principles are there, but you just got to get involved, right? Because it's a small network of people and businesses, and so the chamber allowed me to do that, and allowed me to get involved in a lot of great events, put up tents, shake hands, kiss babies, all that good stuff to grow the business, right? And so, yeah, that's kind of what I did with the chamber. I'll just kind of go on a little tangent here, but I am so honored and humbled that my peers had put me in this chairman's role, to help guide the chamber now, and the vision and the growth of it and its members, and to be able to give back to the community that has supported me so much is just an honor. I'm trying to do my best. I'm like a month in, but just approaching it with a lot of gratitude, and just grateful that I have the opportunity to do this. I've been on the board, I think, 3 years now. And so, it's just a pleasure. It's a pleasure to work with the team over there. They got a great leader, Nancy, who's the president, who does all the day-to-day, and her team. And so to be the chairman's relatively easy. There's not a lot to do. So it's just, hey, what can we do to help grow other businesses that either want to be in the community or, are in the community and need a little help. So that's where we're at.
And you're an influential guy in the community. You're chairman of the chamber board. You're well known in the community. What's kind of the vision that you want to set for Evergreen as your tenure as the chairman of the board?
So I think the overall vision and the message I gave to the board that works with us, which is a great board, by the way, a lot of awesome business owners in town. In our November planning meeting, it was twofold, right? It was to really support our local businesses and make sure they're growing and successful, and understand the role of the chamber in doing that, right? And so one of the big goals is to increase chamber membership, so that everybody can benefit the way I did, and make sure they understand the why, right? And get the members that don't participate to start participating, because a lot of people join their chambers just to get the little sticker for their door. That's not how you get your benefit, right? Yeah, you'll get a website listing and a sticker, but you got to become active in it to get your benefit. So really, to make sure that the people of Evergreen know that the chamber's there for them, and make it a little bit more of a transparent organization, because we are run by our members. And so I want to be a good representative of the members. And then just to approach our leadership, with gratitude was my other message to the team. We've got to understand that we're in this role because our community trusts us, and we gotta take care of the community back. And so I wanted to make sure everybody was there for the right reason, and I think they are. And then the third thing is, every organization, you got to plan for a future. And I think we do a great job as a chamber and have year to year planning, and maybe some bigger picture stuff like our Everything Evergreen app and things like that are long term. But I wanted to make sure we had succession plans, the right people that can replace people, because organizations don't think about that. My guy that's been with me 6 years in the agency, he's going to retire. If I don't have some backfill from him learning now, I'm going to be behind the 8 ball when he retires. And so we got to think that way as an organization too, as a chamber, right? Eventually this team will move on to bigger, better things that might be out there, might retire, some of them. And we got to, as an organization, we got to plan for the future. And so that's the other thing I wanted to do, is just make sure we knew where we were going 3, 5, even 7 years from now, as far as keeping the organization running and who's going to do that. And I feel like we've got some people on the team now that can.
And the last question is, as somebody who's scaled a multi-million-dollar business, what's your advice for new entrepreneurs to the Evergreen and kind of Colorado foothills area just starting off?
Yeah, so the mountains are unique. You got a unique labor pool up here. You don't have a big draw for college kids or young business people trying to kind of make their way through, right? You're a small community with a small draw. So the first thing is really identify employees. I mean, if I could go back in time, that's one of the things I would have just done that investment earlier in my employees, and I think we'd be a lot further than where we are. But I didn't know. I didn't know how this mountain town works. So know where you're going to hire your employees from, know who you want, and just invest in that team right away. Yeah, it's going to hurt you a little bit from a financial perspective as a new business, but plan for it. Because if you get the right people, you're going to be successful up here. So that's number one. And then I think number two, in a community like Evergreen, and there's a lot of them out there, right? You get Summit County, Breckenridge, Frisco, getting these smaller mountain communities, you need to get involved in the community, period. So find your favorite event, find your favorite charity, find your favorite organization, and just do something with them. Doesn't matter what you do, just do something with them. And then that'll help you grow. And then just, know the right people, right? Every business and every town, you need a good banker. I got one. You need a good accountant. I got one. You need a good bookkeeper. I got one. I got 5 good lawyers. So, I mean, you got to have a good team around you of support. And so you got to find those businesses too that are going to support your business. You need a good marketing guy. He's sitting right here, right? So you got to find the team that's going to help you grow too.
Well, it's awesome having you as a host here. And the vision for people listening is that you can listen to this podcast a few times a month, hear successful stories of people who have scaled in the mountains, who've navigated the challenges, and you could walk away with a few nuggets of information. And I think if somebody's listening, they can learn from you in terms of getting involved in the community, not being afraid to spend on marketing dollars, how you've built a team and managed that, and your overall philosophy of excellence. And this will be episode 2 that's coming out. We have a number of different interviews with business owners that you're going to be able to learn from. So I'm excited to have you as a host on the show.
Yeah, I'm again grateful and glad to be here, not only with you, but in this community and welcomed by this community. And, at this point, it's nice to be able to kind of give back a little bit through this channel, right? And bring in some of our other great businesses that we know and give them an interview and give them the opportunity to share their stories. So, it's going to be a fun podcast to do. And I was happy to be a guest today. A little weird to be the guest, but I'm happy to be the guest. And, look forward to meeting and greeting and sharing the stories of all these other great business folks up here.
And this show is sponsored by the two of us. Bryan is an excellent insurance agent up here in the mountains. He is an agent that actually cares for his people. He's not the insurance agent where you buy the insurance, you pay in for years and years, and something happens, and then you're stonewalled and don't get anything. Bryan's here that I've seen him help people through the claims process to make sure they get what they've been paying for. As the insurance industry updates and there's new rules and new policies, he's there checking in with his members. And so if you're a business owner and you're working in the mountains, you need insurance. When I first started my business, I didn't have insurance for the first year or two, and I should have gotten that sooner because to have that peace of mind, and it's not as expensive as you think. And so I'd encourage you to call into Bryan's office as a business owner for your house or for your car, and especially for life insurance as an entrepreneur. A lot of times you might be the only or the sole breadwinner of your family, and to make sure that your family has that peace of mind, especially with life insurance, is great. And I also sponsor this podcast here, hosted in my studio here in Evergreen, Colorado, the premier state-of-the-art podcast and content creation facility. And if you're looking to do podcasts, YouTube videos, seminars, whatever it is, and grow your business, feel free to reach out to me. And we'll see you guys in the next episode.
All right, we'll see you. Thank you, Cade.